Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams that leave all worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me.
Good morning. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz, K-Squid 90.7 FM, streaming live at ksqd.org. I am Catherine Bell, and this is The Dream Journal, a weekly show where we explore the healing powers of your nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you.
Stars fading, but I linger on, dear, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, dear, just
In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Listening to the beautiful music of Rick Cleffel, who has created a new piece for us again today. Stay tuned today for a conversation about the ethics of dreamwork and also about dreaming in the context of Christianity with the Reverend Geoff Nelson. Stay tuned. This is Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. The Dream Journal is also a podcast, so you can look for that on all of your regular podcast places, or you can go to the KSQD website where all of these episodes are recorded. You can find the episodes there at ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. Tune in and get your dream on. So look for the Dream Journal in your podcast land, review it, subscribe, and tell a friend. We'd like to expand listenership, and people will know about your dreams and give you a chance to talk about dreams together. Tell them you listen to the Dream Journal. Wow. Okay. I always get to this bit. Starting to my personal dream work. Well, the dream that's up for me right now is I think it's maybe the same one I talked about last week, but sometimes it takes a little while to process things and work through them, and this one had to do with getting a clean shirt and clean undies from the car. I've just returned from this 5-week mega road trip with my new husband, Max Eaton. And we stayed in pretty much a new place every night except when we were staying with relatives. And I had a big bag of clothes in the car and a little bag I'd bring in. And every evening I'd pick out a clean shirt and underwears and socks and stuff for the next morning and put it in my overnight bag. And this dream is like, what's this dream? This is like, you would say, karmic traces. This is what's happening in my life today. And so it's easy to think, oh, there's nothing interesting here, nothing new here. And yet, as I feel into that, I kind of have got the sense of the starting fresh. Like, can I really start fresh? Clean t-shirt, clean undies, clean socks every day. Like, even with people that I've known for a long time, even with my siblings, even with Max, who, we've been together for almost 3 years now. And can we start fresh? And like talk about the unexpected, like Rick was saying, expect the unexpected and not just assume that the same old is going to happen again. So here I am starting fresh back in Santa Cruz. So here I am in the studio. This is wonderful to be here behind a mic too, and Rick is taking care of all those technical details, which I'm so grateful for. So today, as usual, I will be inviting call-ins during the last 20 minutes of the show. You can jot that number down now. It's 831-900-5773. You can also send us an email at any time to onair@ksqd.org. That's onair@ksqd.org. Okay, so returning to the phones, welcome to Geoff Nelson. Hello.
Morning, Catherine.
Hey, good to have you on the show. Geoff is a repeat customer. He was on the show 2 years ago, so it's been a while. So we're really happy to have you back.
Thank you. It's nice to be back.
Great. The Reverend Geoff Nelson is a retired Presbyterian pastor from Whittier, California. He's also a trained spiritual director, labyrinth facilitator, and received a Doctor of Ministry degree for running dream groups in churches, which his book, Dreaming in Church, describes. Reverend Nelson is part of the International Association for the Study of Dreams, serving on the Ethics Committee, which I do as well, which is how I know Geoff. And he's also on the Conference Planning Committee, as I am as well. He has been involved in hosting several regional Southern California Dream Conferences with the IASD and is excited about the upcoming conference in Tucson next summer, a big international conference in Tucson in July, which will be the first live conference in 3 years. And so we'll be talking about all of that as we go forward. So, Geoff, hello.
Good morning again.
And good morning again. Yes, indeed. So, we talked on the last time you were on the show, we focused quite a bit on your Dreaming in Church book, which guys can look up in the archives if anyone wants to see. And we'll talk some more about that today. But the conversation today is something I'm particularly interested in lately, which has to do with the ethics of dream sharing and and it's something that Geoff and I are both particularly interested in, and to the degree that we're both volunteers on the ethics committee for the IASD. And I want to ask you, Geoff, what was it that first attracted you to ethics, and what does it mean to you, and what is it that got you interested enough to devote some time to this process?
Well, let me tell you a little story that I find fascinating, and another incidence of the way in which God or the Holy Spirit or the universe, however you want to describe it, works in our lives. I went to a dream group one night that was at a Unitarian church in Long Beach, about 20 miles from where I live. Was started after Jeremy Taylor came and spoke at that Unitarian church. And this group had been going on for 6 or 8 months. And one particular night, there was a couple, husband and wife, in the group, and the husband shared a dream. And he had no sooner finished describing his dream than his wife literally jumped in and said, "I'll tell you what that dream means. That dream means you don't spend enough time with me, and if you don't change that, I'm going to leave you."
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh.
And the poor woman that ran the dream group just didn't know what to do with this. So we sort of worked it through for a while. That was on a Friday night. And the next morning, Saturday, I was doing some of my homework for my I am a graduate of the Diploma in the Art of Spiritual Direction program that was held at San Francisco Theological Seminary up in the Bay Area. And my assignment was to read about this system called the Clearness Committee, which is a Quaker model for discernment that was developed in the 1660s to help young Quakers, I'm not sure what they called themselves at the time, help them decide to make decisions. Some of the most important ones were, should I marry this person or not? And the whole model of what I was reading about on Saturday morning was the perfect, I'll use the word antidote, it may not be appropriate, but the perfect solution to what had happened in that dream group the night before. And I went on to develop a program, a presentation that I've done at a couple of the IASD conferences called Safety in Dream Groups, that takes the model of the Clearness Committee that had struck me so conveniently and in such a timely fashion, and compare that to the IASD ethics statement. And I was quite struck by the parallels between them in that the IASD ethics statement is very careful about respecting the dreamer themselves. And this, of course, is what had been totally violated the night before in my dream group. And also, excuse me, as I was looking into the IASD, when I first heard about it from Kelly Bulkley's mother and from Jeremy Taylor, those are names that IASD folks might recognize, I was really struck by the IASD's ethics statement, because coming from a religious background or a church background, churches have been fraught with all the difficulties that our society has been fraught with in terms of sexual abuse and male chauvinism and just a variety of things. And the ways in which the IASD ethics statement addressed the ethics of dream work really struck me as a wonderful model for any organization that's working with people in their inner things, inner ideas, feelings, policies, and their dreams in particular. So putting those two together, it has just become very important to me to continue to lift up issues of ethics and so on and so forth. And interestingly enough, I've presented this Safety and DreamWorks it's a panel presentation twice. And at the second one, I mentioned, as I did here earlier, that this clearness committee model was developed in the 1660s,
Wow, really?
A long time ago. And the next speaker after me on the panel berated the fact that I was quoting from something from the 1660s. It was an ethical violation.
What?
Right there. I mean, it was a classic example of, okay, this is what shouldn't happen in a presentation, where the following speaker berates the previous presentation.
Right.
It was an interesting combination of a presentation on ethics and then a demonstration of violating those ethics.
Right.
It was interesting. So anyway, that's probably a much longer answer than you may have wanted.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what got me interested.
This is what we're here for. I love to hear these kinds of stories, and I had never heard about this clearness committee model. Maybe you could say a little more about that. Developed in the 1660s, and this is. I also, before you go into what that is, which I'm very curious about, I want to just comment that this was a spiritual community, and I find that dream work is very much a spiritual practice. I mean, it doesn't have to be. There's plenty of people who approach it in a more psychological point of view, but I have found myself over the years kind of coming towards a spiritual experience of my dreams, and so it's not too surprising to me that the spiritual model would apply to dream work as well.
Yeah, and some of the sort of instructions or guidelines for a clearness committee. Let me just read a couple to
Perfect.
you. The function of the committee is to simply listen to what the person is saying and ask probing questions, not directing questions, if that distinction is clear. Let me just read some of the guidelines. Open, honest inquiries are the only form of communication permitted. Committee members follow one rule which most people find difficult and demanding: to ask only real, unloaded questions to support the focus person in removing blocks to his or her inner truth. Now, I took the guidelines for the clearness committee and sort of translated it into guidelines for a dream group, and using the dreamer as the focus person, group members as the dream group members. I mean, the parallels were just amazing and really wonderful, because here's some honest questions mean that you cannot say, well, why don't you? Or do you think this book or therapist or diet might help? Or do you think maybe this is all your mother's fault? No speeches disguised as questions.
Yes. So they're unloaded is the key. The questions that don't have a direction. So really just finding out what is going on with the seeker, the dreamer, what is really, so the question should really be open-ended and undirective, like you said, not a speech disguised as a question.
Yeah. Now here's another comment that if you think about doing dream work, this one still gets me from time to time. As a committee member, as in the clearness committee, or if we were to say as a dream group member, I may think I know what the focus person should do. And on rare occasions, I may be right, but my solution has no value unless it becomes the solution of the dreamer or the focus person on their own. So the only response that counts is what arises from the inner truth of the focus person. And in IASD, we say only the dreamer knows the real meaning of the dream.
Exactly.
So there's intense parallels here, attempting to keep the dreamer or the focus person as much in the focus as possible and as safe as possible, so that people don't try to influence the dreamer one way or another. And one of the interesting things that I found in clearness committee practice that I've seen in a few other dream groups is the people keep their eyes closed.
Oh. Huh.
You do not look at each other in a focus in a clearness committee. Now, I know a couple of people, and are you familiar with the Hayden Institute in North Carolina?
Yes, I've heard about them. I haven't associated with them, but I know some things about them, yes.
Yeah, I'm assuming they still use the same technique, but when they do a dream group, the dreamer turns their chair and faces outward while the rest of the group faces inward. So there is no eye contact made. And you can imagine somebody who really feels they know what your dream is about. They're going to look at you as though they're trying to drill holes through your head. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, what a great idea. Huh?
Yes, and so that was one of the things that sort of the clearness committee opened up for me.
Right. Okay. I had not thought of that aspect of it, is that we can influence with more than just our words, but also body language and looks and gestures can be very influential to social creatures like humans. Oh, that's really, really fascinating to hear that. I'm like, we talked about only the dreamer knows, and this is something that even in my private session work that I'm always working to get closer and closer to that ideal of letting the dreamer come up with what the dream means, because we look at our own dreams and we say, well, what does that mean? So what does it mean when you say only the dreamer knows, and yet the other people in the room might have some ideas? And so how do you communicate your ideas to see if the dreamer has a response, like the aha response, which is just like in a sense of where the dreamer goes, oh, something feels right there.
Yeah.
That for me is kind of the gold standard of starting to understand a dream. And, actually understand is a word that I don't prefer to use, because I don't think it's a really rational, there's more about, does it feel right in your gut? Does it settle in your heart? Do you feel more peaceful after you think about the dream that way? I wonder if you have some other things to offer about that way of working with dreams.
Well, I think that what really struck me in the very beginning about the IASD technique is that phrase, if it were my dream.
Yeah.
You can say all number of things if you preface it that way and phrase the statement or the question as though it really were your dream. Because really that's how we're all responding to somebody else's dream. Our own sense in that situation, and we call it projection. So if we say, if it were my dream, then we own the projection and we own the statement that we're making, and it leaves the dreamer free to say, well, that's not my dream, or that doesn't connect with me.
Yeah.
And when you have a dream group with, say, 4 or 5 people, maybe 2 of the people will say something that's purely related to their own lives, but the other 2 may have something to say that really opens the dream for the dreamer in a way that he or she may not have looked at previously. So it's if it were my dream is a wonderful setup, really, to do dream work, I think.
Absolutely. That's a very key phrase, and it's something that is powerful, and I use that frequently myself. So Geoff, I want to play a little piece of music that Geoff has selected, and I will say that in about 20 minutes we will be opening up the phones, so you can call in at that point to 831-900-5773. That's 900 KSQD in the Santa Cruz area. You can talk about what you've been dreaming about lately, or questions about ethics, and we are here speaking to Geoff Nelson. This is the Dream Journal on KSQD 90.7 FM, and I am your host, Catherine Bell.
Both man and master in the night are one. All things are equal when the day is done. The prince and the plowman, the slave and the free man, all find their comfort in old John a dream. All find their comfort in old John a dream.
Okay, you are listening to The Dream Journal. This is KSQD Santa Cruz, streaming live at ksqd.org. My name is Catherine Bell, and we are here live with the Reverend Geoff Nelson. Thanks for being on the show again today, Geoff.
You're welcome.
So, Geoff and I, as I mentioned, are both on the ethics committee at the IASD because it's something that we as a community feel is very important, especially when we get together in large groups like the yearly international conferences where there's often 300 people or so gathering together, just exploring new techniques, and different dream practitioners have opportunity to introduce people to their ideas and to inspire them in various ways. And sometimes things do happen where we need to have a kind of some kind of I don't even know what to say, but there's sometimes we need to get together and talk about something that happened, and some kind of consequences sometimes have to be meted out. I do want to say that the IASD ethics statement is something you can find online at the asdreams.org. Look under the tab About Us, and you'll see the ethics statement. And it's quite a long and detailed document, but the essence of it is a few paragraphs long, which was created by Carol Warner, who was our guest a little while ago, and Jeremy Taylor, and many others, and probably, 15 years ago or something like that.
30 years ago.
Oh, was it that? Oh my gosh, so much for my historical. 30 years ago. Okay, so in the 90s, then this was created as something that we decided was really important when you get people together, because dreams do really have a fast track to the subconscious and to some really deep places in our souls, and sometimes opening up dreams too fast can cause psychotic breaks, as we talked about with Karen Warner last week, or was it the week before? That those kind of things can happen, and so we want a container that we're making sure that there's always somebody who's helpful, who's available. Like at the conferences, we have psychologists who are on call in case somebody needs help. They can call at any time and get some psychological counseling free at the conference, because sometimes things do open up. The dreams are very powerful. Geoff and I have been both in the ethics committee for several years now, and there have been a few times when things have come up, and where we've had to, and it's all very confidential, but there are times when we contact people and like let them know that this is not okay, that this is not in line with our system. And one of the powerful parts of the ethics committee is that Geoff hosts the Southern California regional events, and I have also hosted the Northern California regional events. And when we were setting up our first one, we were contacted by the ethics committee to make sure that our regional event was going to be safe in that way, and ethically as pure as possible, so that our participants would be able to attend and enjoy themselves without being exposed to unscrupulous practices. And I, as I've mentioned before on the show, I was part of what can only be described as a dream cult for 7 or 8 years. Luckily, I lived far enough away that I didn't get super involved in the logistics. But any system that is extremely hierarchical can be prone to abuse. And we had a guest, Dret Bouillon, about a month ago, who wrote a book, An Everyday Cult, about this particular cult. And it is something that fell apart at a certain point. But it is, dream work is subject to abuse, as is any other kind of spiritual or really psychological practice. Wonder if you have any thoughts about that, Geoff. It's kind of a lot I throw out there.
How about an amen?
Amen. All right, I'll take that. Yeah, it's
well, as I mentioned in the introduction, as a part of a historical Christian denomination, Presbyterians, we've developed a particular way of governance where we try to maintain that level of emotional safety to a certain extent, and we've seen with the clergy sexual abuse generally in established long-time churches that responsible churches will address those issues and go back into their historical records or look into their theological foundations and come up with a way that has integrity with their faith in terms of treating both perpetrators and victims, and so I've worked in that area of the local Presbyterian church for a long time. So I came into the IASD with some experience and certainly some perspectives. And again, the IASD's ethics statement was a major encouragement for me to think, okay, this is an organization I can work with, be a part of, and feel that it has great integrity with who I am and my own history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because dreams are all concerned with spiritual and personal growth and insight, as is spirituality. And you've mentioned that you're a spiritual coach. Is that the right way to say that? Spiritual director. Yeah. And I wonder how that comes together with dream work, because that's not necessarily a dream work practice. Is that right? It's also any kind of spirituality that the seeker is interested in.
Right.
I'd imagine.
Well, spiritual direction is an attempt to name as best we can the movement of the Spirit. And that Spirit can be, you can call that whatever you like. Spiritual direction crosses all religious and denominational boundaries, because the goal is, how do you find God or the Spirit or whatever in your own life? And one of the best ways to do that is through our dreams, because our dreams are going to speak honestly to us. They're going to help us understand the issues that we're facing and perhaps help us prioritize those issues. They're also dreams speak in the language of spirit. They use pictures, and some of the most powerful scriptural examples around the world are stories or pictures. And the parallel between dreaming and the development of religious language and liturgy and the stories that are told in religions, I think that they are very closely related. And so for me, when I went to spiritual direction school because I wanted a container into which I could put my dream work. By the time I started training for spiritual direction, I had some 25 or 30 years of my own personal dreams and had developed my own whole way of living in conversation with my dreams that to me was sort of my own personal spiritual direction. And then to go get the training, the historical background, learning about the Clearness Committee. The Clearness Committee, again, to me is a perfect model for how to run a dream group. And so those things all fit together for me, and dream work remains. I mean, I've trained in a bunch of disciplines. Spiritual direction is one, walking the labyrinth, praying the book of Psalms in Scripture, praying with icons, a lot of different practices, all of which were beneficial, but none of which touched me as personally or as deeply as my own dreams and dream work did. So that's how That's why I'm here.
Right. Well, and that's something that can probably, the dreams can be incorporated with some of those other practices, like like using dreams in prayer or using dreams in the labyrinth. I wonder if you could comment on a little bit of how to integrate dreams with those kind of spiritual practices.
Yeah. For the labyrinth, I got my labyrinth facilitator training at Grace Cathedral in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, they have a beautiful labyrinth. I've been there.
They have two of them, one indoors and one outdoors. I went there and I took a dream into the labyrinth. And I don't know if you've ever walked a labyrinth, but excuse me. There's a pattern that you walk, and at a certain point you will turn 180 degrees. And I would walk a few turns and then stop and read a part of the dream. Then I would walk some more. And that process was as valuable for me as a dream group was. Because if I would take a piece, walk and meditate on it, something would come to me, which is what happens in a dream group. If I take a dream out there, somebody's going to resonate with some part of the dream and offer me insight on that. So that was one way. Another way, praying the Psalms. The Psalms are a book of what we call the Old Testament, and they're considered the prayer book of the Bible. Some of the Psalms are very, very rough, expressing deep emotions of pain and anger. And those are not emotions that we tend to think of as proper spiritual emotions.
Right.
But the Psalms remind us that because they are human emotions, they are proper. How we respond to those emotions, that becomes the faith question. But the fact that we have those emotions is a universal human experience. So the Psalms help me to, one of the things I say about dreams is you have to be ready for them because they're going to speak honestly. And if you don't want to hear honest stuff about yourself, you don't want to work with your dreams. So there's a few practices that have helped me really in my understanding of dream work and vice versa.
Right. Yeah, that's really, really helpful. And there's so with prayer, like I often find certain ideas coming up in my dreams. And how would you incorporate dreams in prayer? This
is a technique that I developed very early on. Excuse me. I have a technique that I use every day, and I've used it for 45 years or more. I make notes of my dreams at some point in the night. I have a little tablet, a little scratch pad next to my bed with a pencil and a pen light attached to it. So I make the notes, and then in the morning, I will go through those notes, write them into my dream journal, and I'll reflect on them briefly. I usually don't take a lot of time. And then I will write my own personal prayer for the day, which may or may not include insights from the dreaming. So that the dreams are sort of the first step. Okay, what's going on inside me? How do I respond to that? How does what I just dreamt fit into my memories of yesterday or the last month or whatever it may be? And how do I want to sort of aim or focus or direct myself today as a consequence of this dream? So it's a very simple daily process that I work with.
I love that. Thank you so much. So this is Reverend Geoff Nelson, and you are listening to The Dream Journal, and this is now time for us to open up the phone. So Tony Russimano is standing by, ready to take the calls. So you're welcome to call in at any time at 831-900-5773. That's 900 KSQD in the Santa Cruz area. What have you been dreaming about? You can also send an email to onair@ksqd.org. My name is Catherine Bell, and this is The Squid.
Across the hill, the sun has gone astray. Tomorrow's cares are many dreams away. Your stars are flying, your candles dying.
Okay, welcome to the Dream Journal. Our guest today is a Reverend Geoff Nelson, and we have a caller. We have Chris from Felton, who is calling in to speak on the air. Hello, Chris.
Hi, Catherine. It's so wonderful to have you back.
Yoo-hoo! Santa Cruz, love it.
Indeed. So I was really intrigued with the personal dream that you shared at the beginning, and I had a similar dream this morning, and it was one of those dreams where it was basically just repeating a conversation in the dream that I've had several times in waking life, and those are dreams that I usually just dismiss. So, you reflecting on the meaning of your dream of just, packing your things really struck a chord with me. So this dream, you know this, I have recently become an empty nester.
Yep.
And went from a household of 4 people and a dog to just myself and my husband. And in the dream, I was describing that situation to someone using basically the same language that I've used to tell people in waking life. So I just thought it would be interesting to hear your take and Jeff's take on, should we dismiss those dreams, or is there something deeper going on there?
Well, for me, I'll just jump in and say that, we talk about, something happened to me yesterday, so it doesn't have any meaning. But, a million things happened yesterday, and we're only dreaming about that one. So there's some reason that particular incident has come out into our mind. And so I really think it can be valuable to reflect on the dream, even if it is kind of a replaying of something that happened the previous day. Like, why is that particular moment coming back into my mind again while I'm sleeping?
Well, it's certainly a huge change with a lot of emotional implications going on in my life.
Right.
And what's interesting is, so maybe this is something for me to really ponder, is in the dream I was being very matter-of-fact, telling someone about the situation, and I think that's exactly what I've been doing in waking life, and not letting myself go into describing to someone, the emotional impact of this. And I was doing the same thing in the dream, just being very matter-of-fact. So maybe it's a message coming to me in my dreams that, hey, wait a minute, take another look. There's a whole lot more going on there than just the logistics of your life. There's a huge emotional component here.
Right.
And, maybe I'll have another dream where I actually, break down while I'm telling somebody about this and get more in touch with the emotional impact. So,
well, it sounds like you're kind of aware of the emotions behind the situation, even though you're not really expressing them. And maybe the dream is just kind of gently saying, you look a little too matter-of-fact here. Like, what would that be like? Yeah. Geoff, I wonder if you have anything you want to add in here.
Yeah, did you say this was a repeating dream, that you've had one like this several times?
Not that I recall. It was just this very morning that I had that dream.
But it was a repeating conversation, right? Is that right?
Yes, yes. And I've had the conversation in waking life several times, telling friends and acquaintances that we're now living in an empty nest, as they say. Yeah. And then it came up in the dream, almost the same conversation.
Almost the same conversation. Do you know the difference?
Oh, that's a really good question, Geoff. I think the difference was I don't even remember who I was speaking to in the dream. It was sort of just having the conversation with, kind of out into the universe with no particular audience. So really having the conversation, I would say, with myself and my unconscious, and maybe, the divine presence in my dream.
Right. Right.
Well, the reason that I would ask is that if there's any difference between the dream and your waking memories, that difference is a place to begin looking for perhaps something new, or perhaps a slightly different direction to look or pursue, depending on the particular situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it is different that in the dream that you're not speaking to any of the people, that you're just kind of speaking out into the universe. Is that, if I got that right, and I'd be wondering, if this were my dream, that would be, who am I really speaking to? Is it myself and my soul? What is when you take the person out, that there's no one I'm speaking to, it's really about me to myself, perhaps.
That's a very
and what are my values that are either being challenged or re-examined or something here? Because when we're speaking to the universe, so to speak, that's a statement of who we are and what our values are, and that's an important process, really, for all of us.
Yeah.
That's a great question, Geoff, for me to think about, is what are my own values, or what values are being brought up or addressed or challenged for me in the dream. Thank you.
Yeah, Chris, I just be tender with yourself. That when I have a dream about something that I think there should be emotion around, or I would be expecting some emotion, and yet there's not any emotion, then I'm just kind of curious, just kind of tender, like maybe it hasn't been safe for me to feel that emotion. So there's no rush to get to a point where I'm just traumatized that my child has moved out or anything, but it can be just tender to go, okay, well, maybe I'm just approaching this gradually. This feeling is just slowly creeping up on me, and it's okay that it can be slow.
Thank you. Thank you so much, both of you.
Yeah, thanks for calling, Chris.
You're welcome. All right, bye-bye.
Okay, take care. So we have another caller on the line. This is Ahleen from Santa Cruz. And I'll also just say that the other phone line is now open if we want to get another caller. The number is 831-900-5773. But right now I'd like to speak to Ahleen. Hello. Am I saying your name correctly?
Hello. Yes, well, almost. It's Ahleen.
Ahleen.
A-H. Like,
A-H. Thank you. Thanks for calling. What can we do for you today?
Oh, well, I have an interesting question to ask, but I have to give you a little bit of history about my dreams.
Sure.
I've noticed that I don't really dream that I remember. And if I do, on a rare occasion, remember a dream, it's like I'm always dealing with solutions and problems and trying to figure things out, building things, coming to all these. And this is what I do all day long. So it's kind of like I'm living my regular life. I'm like, can I just dream of beautiful fields and, lovely feelings? I mean, I hear people's dreams and I'm totally jealous because they're having these nice vacations, and I'm still solving problems in my dreams whenever I do remember them. So that's kind of annoying. But I also had repetitive dreams. In my 20s, I had the same dream about a year or so apart. And it was interesting because I was in New York and a bunch of people started running away from something, and I wanted to sit down and meditate. It's so funny. And somebody in my dream who was my son, I don't have a son, and he's like, come on, Mom, let's go. And here we are years later, there was that experience with 9/11, which was a similar look, like everybody running away from one spot. And I knew it wasn't a bomb, but I knew it was something big. So some of my dreams have been like predicting, so something would happen the next day after I dreamt it. But most of the time I don't dream. So I was wondering, what is it, dreamless sleep? Have you heard that phrase before?
Yeah, dreamless sleep. Go ahead, Geoff. How are you? You have something bubbling for you?
No, just that I would encourage Ahleen to start keeping track of her dreams, because I think the assumption that she doesn't dream is the assumption many people make because they don't remember their dreams, and they don't remember them because they're not prompted to. There isn't a reason specifically to remember your dreams unless they speak to you loudly enough or you have some interest in your dreams. Because my experience is that, 80 or 90% of my dreams are going to reflect my daily activities. So when Ahleen says that she's solving problems and building things, but that's what she does in her waking life, yes, your dreams are going to reflect that. But every now and then there'll be a dream that will not fit that style, and you need to record those. You need to write them down to be able to remember them later and to see if there's any kind of a pattern that takes place in your dream life. But remember, recording them is the most important part, because it's so difficult for us to remember our dreams if we don't write them down.
Absolutely. And, I also want to add, Ahleen, that solving solutions is not nothing. I mean, that's dreaming. And,
Yes.
like we were talking about with Chris, is that we dream a million things. In waking life, a million things a day happen to us, but the one particular one, or the 3 or 4, whatever shows up in the dreams, are selected for a reason. So the particular solution that is appearing may be fantastical, may not even apply in waking life, but there's some reason that the dreams are focusing on that aspect of waking life. And just like Geoff was saying around Chris's dream, it can be very interesting to notice the differences between the waking life situation and the dreaming situation, and that, you say that in waking life you do a lot of problem solving, solution solving, and yet in the dreams they pick one or two things to solve, and they may be solving. It may look like one or two things, but there may be like layers of solutions happening. Like, so maybe about some technical detail around my job, but there may also be an aspect of my relationships in my job, or my relationships at home, or there may be an aspect of childhood situation that I'm working out that is multi-layered into that. And if for my dream, I'd be thinking about the different layers that might be highlighted here. Like, if this particular thing shows up in a dream, even if it feels really mundane, it may be kind of pulling on a neural net of something that's more profound. And so I would urge you to record all of your dreams, even the ones that seem just like I'm doing my waking life thing all the time. And, there's something we call dream envy. I have totally dream envy all the time. My dreams are often quite mundane, and I always wish I could have more snakes and angels and flying dreams and things like that. And I don't have those much either.
My dreams are so challenging. When I do remember them, it's like, oh God, I'm trying to come up with a solution, or something that's chasing me, or some people that I'm with and we're trying to get away and we're trying to protect ourselves. And I mean, it's just like, dang,
right.
I'm going to be 60 pretty soon. It'd be nice to have some fluffy, nice dreams, especially in a world where things are just so difficult right now. You think our dreams would be soothing us by having something nice to remember throughout the day.
Well,
but I will definitely
some of them
look
will.
more closely. Yeah, I'll definitely look more closely at the details of the problem solving, because maybe even if it doesn't make sense as far as the situation, there may be a little key in there to something that I need to know.
Right.
Yeah.
I also,
I'll try.
If you have another minute, Ahleen, I have a question I'd like to ask you about some of these running dreams. These kind of sometimes a dream for me will highlight something that I'm ignoring in waking life. Like, I might be saying, "Oh, everything's fine. It's just wonderful. Like, I'm having no problems," and yet at night I have a nightmare. Right, and I'm running, and then if I ask myself, what do I sometimes feel like I'm running in waking life, and I have to say, whoa, I'm kind of pretending I'm not, but actually I do. Sometimes I feel like I'm running, but I'm fine. No, I'm just totally fine, and yet so I'm kind of ignoring the feeling. And so I wonder if for my dream, I'd be asking myself if there is a way that I kind of have this sensation of running and having to get away from things, but I'm pretending that I don't. Like, I'm...
Right. I mean, I guess I could say that my life is kind of like one person trying to run a hotel with all the businesses.
Oh, wow. That's...
It's so overwhelming.
Right.
Everything I have to do, and I'm not going to say I never have enough time. It's just I have to address whatever. And then, there's always things in life that come up that are very important. Like right now, you need to know that. And so I have to stop what I'm doing. And it's just like the accumulation of the inbox is getting taller, and the outbox is not filled up enough, and I'm also feeling tired, and I've been dealing with these situations for years. I haven't been on vacation in 7 years
Oh, my
plus.
goodness.
And
Well.
so I'm just like worn out, and I don't see myself getting big bursts of energy to deal with that.
Right. So,
and it's so funny because with COVID, it just pushed us in,
Yeah.
So that's why I feel like maybe I'm running from my inbox. You know what I mean? It's like I need a vacation. Like whether it slows me down or not, I just have to get away to do something, just to have some peace or something.
Right, and at least acknowledge how difficult it has been. 7 years without a vacation. Just to really acknowledge, give yourself some compassion. It's like I'm really overwhelmed a lot of the time, and I'm coping and managing and doing what I have to do. But to acknowledge it sometimes feels like I'm just running, and to kind of bringing some tenderness there to bring the feelings to the surface. And
yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
that's so nice. And there are days like where I will I move slowly because I don't want to feel rushed.
Yeah.
Because I know that's important to my constitution and my health.
Good.
And I just trust that, okay, whatever I get done today is really the things that only need to be done, as much as that inbox is gigantic and scary. It's like, kind of like the whatever, kind of a thing, It's like whatever. You can only do what you can do, and that's where my faith steps in. My faith is like, okay, you can manage this. It's not as big as you think, and that's what got me through. But my dreams, just definitely like solving solutions and doing things. I'm like, come on, dream world, give me a break. Let's go to Hawaii, or let's do something like amazing, and fun. And so, but I definitely appreciate dreams and what they might give, and I'll try to write down those interesting solutions or situations and see later in the day if I reflect on them, if it makes sense in my current life.
Yeah, thank you, Ahleen. I really appreciate you bringing this. This is really tender, and these are, I think, this is really helpful to talk about this, and I really hope that things do slow down for you a little bit, and you get a chance to have more space to take care of yourself and take a break. And I'm glad that you have a good mental attitude, and I just wish that things go smoothly for you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's nice to be heard, and I appreciate your help with my dreams.
Okay, thank you, Ahleen.
Yeah.
All right, bye now. So, Geoff, we just have the last 2 minutes of the show, and I wondered if I just wanted to say a few words about the Tucson conference coming up in July for the IASD. It seems like a long time off, but I'm so excited because it's been 3 years since we've seen each other in person, or will be by then.
Right. Yeah.
So if all goes well, assuming we don't have any other resurgences or anything, I'm touching wood, in July we'll be in Tucson, and I'm super excited about that. I wonder if you have a word or two to say about that, and then we'll say goodbye.
No, I too am excited because this is an organization that has really become family for me in many ways. With my own personal experience with my dreams, it's hard to find people with whom I can have a conversation about dreams and feel that we're sort of in the same ballpark, so to speak. But that's universal at IASD, that I can talk with almost anybody about dreams, even some of the researchers. Mm-hmm. I'm always struck by the researchers who take the very scientific, materialistic approach to dreams, but they also keep a dream journal.
Right.
Which is an indication of their own personal acceptance of dreams as being helpful or supportive in some way. And that's the IASD conferences are wonderful for the research that's being developed and done by people that, some of the researchers have been around for a long time, and I've had great conversations with them over the years, even though we come at dreams from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. Sharing the conference time is just wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge range of people there. Mm-hmm. So, Geoff Nelson, do you have any final... how do listeners get in touch with you?
Mainly just through email. I don't do much website stuff anymore, but my email address is ggNelson@ix.netcom.com, all small letters. And that'd be the best way. My book is available through Amazon or Whiffenstock, the publishers.
Excellent. And do you have any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just that I hope everybody is paying attention to their dreams, writing them down, please. Mm-hmm. If you want to do anything with your dreams, that's really the first and most important step. And I think that our life will have more integrity to it if we are paying attention to our dreams. Our life may not be smoother necessarily or happier, but it will have more integrity and we'll be more in touch with our deeper selves.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, Geoff, we'll see you on our next committee meeting. I'm sure.
Right on, just a couple weeks.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Catherine.
So next week, we will have on the show Katerina Appleby. Kat will share some of her experiences with her collective consciousness and with shamanic dreaming. So listen to the live broadcast Saturday at 10, or catch the podcast replay, which, as always, will be released on the Monday following the show.
Stars fading, but I linger on, dear.
I am Catherine Bell, and this has been The Dream Journal. Thanks for listening. You can find out more about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com, and you can email me at catherine@ksqd.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. If you have a dream you're curious about, please contact me so I can sign you up for a free introductory dream consultation. Thank you to everyone who's left a review on Apple Podcasts. I'm glad you're enjoying the show. Feel free to leave your own review. I'd also like to thank Rick Kleffel as an engineer and musician. I'd like to thank Tony Russomano for answering the phones and all of the donors who support this station. We are 100% listener supported, and you can always donate at ksqd.org. And when you do donate, be sure to tell them that you are a Dream Journal listener. When you wake up tomorrow morning, take a minute to look within. Do you remember a dream? Write it down and bring it to the next Dream Journal. I am Catherine Bell, and you are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz.
Trying to take away my worries.